Subscribe before the next phone rings, because a voice on the line might be calling from your past. Blue strobes washed the riverbank as officers fanned out with flashlights, their beams slicing through cold mist. A sedan, stolen an hour earlier, lay nose down in reeds, driver's door ajar, key still dangling. Detective Rowan crouched by a crushed burner phone in the mud, its screen spiderweb and blinking a single notification. One missed call from Lena. The problem? Lena Alvarez had been buried 3 weeks ago. Maya Alvarez stood beyond the crime tape, fingers clenched around her own phone. She'd answered that same call less than 2 hours earlier. Maya, the voice had whispered, raw and shaky, "Don't trust them. Meet me where the water sounds hollow." The voice was Lena's down to the stutter on her L's, the nervous inhale before the next sentence. It was impossible. It was undeniable. And it sent Maya driving into the night toward the old flood channel, the place where, years ago, the sisters used to yell secrets just to hear the echoes push them back. Rowan had been assigned to Lena's hit and run, the case that closed too cleanly. A drifter confessed, the dash cam failed, and every loose thread was neatly clipped. Still, something bothered him. The absence of grief in some of the interviews, the neatness of a confession from a man who couldn't recall the license plate, the way the funeral director avoided eye contact when he signed the paperwork. When Maya's 911 call came in, "My dead sister called me," Rowan was already driving without sirens. They found marks from a quick stop, shoe prints leading from the road to the reeds, and tire tracks from a second vehicle. Priya, the department's tech analyst, scanned the broken burner. "VoIP spoof," she muttered. "But the caller ID tag does explain the voice." She glanced at Maya. "Could anyone have a clean recording of your sister? Long enough to mimic her?" Maya thought of Lena's podcast, the one she abandoned after episode 5 when she started getting weird emails. Thought of the cloud backup Lena never shared, the password she guarded like a wound. The word hollow kept circling back like a hawk. Rowan split the search. Uniforms worked the river. He took Maya to the flood channel. Concrete ribs arched overhead, chalky with age. An oil drum lay on its side, ringing when the current licked its rim, water sounding hollow. They found more shoe prints. Fresh, different tread than those by the reeds. A gum wrapper folded into a tiny triangle. Lena's habit. Maya touched it and went still. Priya pinged in Rowan's earbud, pulled tower logs. The Lena call bounced from 3 different relays in under a minute. Whoever did this knows what they're doing. Also, listen. Static popped. Then Lena's voice poured out, recorded and analyzed, mapped in waveforms. This isn't just a playback. Someone built a voice model. The breath patterns are too adaptive. Maya swallowed. Voice cloning. So not a ghost. Someone wearing Lena like a mask. Back at the staging area, a tip rolled in. A neighbor saw a man unloading boxes from Lena's storage unit the night before the funeral. The man wore a city worker jacket that looked brand new. The unit's address? A decommissioned stormwater facility. A labyrinth of rooms under the old maintenance house at the edge of town. They drove there as storm clouds knitted the sky. The maintenance house sat hunched behind chain link, a condemned sign flapping. The front door was chained, but the side hatch gave after one hard shove. Inside, the air was old metal and mildew. Their flashlights snagged on peeling paint, on industrial sinks, on a wall of lockers scabbed with rust. From somewhere below, a phone started ringing. One tone, then silence, then a second, the same 3-beat pattern Lena used when she wanted Maya to answer right now. They followed the sound to a locked basement door, with a keypad slick with grime. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from Lena. "Don't trust the code they gave you." Rowan exhaled. "Who's they?" The ringing stopped. Something scraped on the other side. Rowan keyed in the city master override. The lock clicked. The door inched open, and what they saw on the beam changed everything. Before you scroll, hit subscribe, because the next call you ignore might already have your name on it. The basement swallowed light like water. A single fluorescent bulb flickered overhead, humming an uneven rhythm that made the silence heavier. Dust hung in the air like breath that wouldn't leave. Maya stepped forward, her phone trembling in her hand. On the floor sat a desk, a cracked monitor, and 3 cell phones wired together with looping cables. All of them had the same contact displayed. "Lena." Rowan moved closer, careful not to touch anything. "This looks like a call relay setup," he muttered. Priya's voice came through his earpiece. Tense. "That's a homemade voice synthesis rig. Whoever built it used real-time AI modulation. It can mimic tone, rhythm, even emotional inflection." She paused. "Rowan, this wasn't some prank. This was meant for her." A faint buzzing filled the room. The phones began to ring, one after another, like a chain reaction. Maya's own phone lit up again. "Incoming call, Lena." She stared at the screen, pulse hammering in her neck. Rowan reached to stop her, but she answered. "Maya," the voice said, quieter this time. "He's not who you think." The line cracked with interference. "Don't." Then static exploded so loud Rowan yanked the phone away. When the noise cleared, a different voice whispered through the speakers of the rig. Too late. The power cut out. Darkness sealed the room. Maya's flashlight clicked back on, its cone shaking as she turned it toward the desk. One of the monitors had booted to life on its own. On the screen was a paused CCTV frame. The storm channel from earlier that night. A figure in a reflective city worker jacket stood at the edge of the water. The timestamp was 2 hours before they arrived. The face was blurred, but something about the stance, the shoulders, made Maya whisper, "That's Lena's boyfriend, Ryan." Rowan frowned. Ryan had given a statement after the accident, said he was out of town on a construction job, grieving quietly. His alibi checked, at least back then, but if he'd been here tonight. They exited the basement to call in, but when they stepped outside, the rain had started in sheets. A utility van sat half hidden near the tree line, engine idling. Its headlights flicked off the moment their beams hit it. Rowan drew his flashlight higher. "Police, step out of the vehicle." Nothing. Then, screeching tires, gravel spinning. The van tore down the path. Rowan sprinted to his cruiser, Maya shouting behind him. Sirens cut through the downpour as they chased the van toward the industrial bridge. Halfway across, the van jerked sideways, colliding with the guardrail. Rowan stopped hard, drew his gun, and approached. The driver's door hung open, empty. The keys were still in the ignition. In the passenger seat sat a phone plugged into an auxiliary cable, a waveform frozen on-screen. Priya's voice crackled in his ear. "Rowan, I'm reading the same digital fingerprint as the basement setup. The van is part of the same network. Whoever you're chasing, he's rerouting calls through physical devices to hide his trace." Maya picked up a small flash drive from the seat. On its label, one word, "Hollow." Back at the precinct, Priya decrypted the drive. Inside were hundreds of recordings, Lena's podcasts, voice memos, even voicemails from Maya. And underneath those files, a folder named Tests. They opened the first one. It was Lena's voice saying, "Can you hear me?" Then, "Try again," matched the tremor. Over and over, slightly different each time, until her speech became distorted, inhuman. Rowan stared at the screen. Someone trained the voice model, using her real recordings. They cloned her before she died. Maya covered her mouth. Then that call wasn't random. They wanted me to hear her voice, to pull me back to that place. Priya looked up from the screen. "Rowan, there's metadata here. The training files were created after her death. Someone uploaded them remotely from an IP registered to the same construction company where Ryan worked." Rowan froze. So he's not the grieving boyfriend. He's the engineer who built the voice. Lightning flared outside the windows, turning every shadow into movement. And just then, Maya's phone lit up again, another call from Lena. Only this time, the voice that came through wasn't pleading. It was calm, cold. "Maya," it said, "you shouldn't have opened the door." The call ended, but across the precinct speakers, one of the store recordings started playing by itself. It was Lena's voice whispering from every corner of the room. "He's still here. Don't forget to subscribe, because the next story might not wait for you to press play." The lights in the precinct sputtered, then went out. Backup generators kicked in with a low mechanical groan. Red emergency bulbs painted the hallway in pulses of blood-tinted glow. Maya clutched her phone, staring at the caller ID still glowing Lena. The line had gone dead, but the words still echoed in her head. He's still here. Detective Rowan drew a slow breath. Lock every exit, he ordered, voice steady but thin. Priya's fingers flew across her keyboard. Someone's accessing our network. The same signature from a van. They're inside digitally. A metallic clang echoed from the far corridor. The sound of a door bolt snapping. Rowan turned, flashlight slicing through the darkness. Stay here. But Maya followed, her nerves strung tight as wire. They reached the records room. The door hung open, cold air spilling out. Papers fluttered in the draft from a shattered window. On the floor lay an evidence bag, Lena's broken phone. It had been locked away hours ago. Now it was gone. A shadow shifted near the filing shelves. Ryan! Rowan called. No answer, only the faint shuffle of boots on tile. He advanced, gun raised, beam steady. Suddenly, movement. A figure darted between aisles. Rowan shouted, "Stop!" A crash followed. Metal shelves toppled, scattering files like feathers. When the noise settled, Ryan Alvarez stepped into the light, wet hair plastered to his forehead, a cut blooming across his cheek. He smiled, exhausted, unhinged. "I told her it would make us remembered," he said, but she wouldn't listen. Maya's voice trembled. "You cloned her voice. You made those calls." He laughed softly. She wanted people to hear her podcasts, her stories about truth and lies. I just made sure no one could forget her voice. His gaze darkened. But she betrayed me, tried to delete everything, tried to erase our work. Rowan moved closer. "You caused a crash, didn't you?" Ryan hesitated, eyes flicking toward Maya. "It wasn't supposed to happen like that. I only wanted to scare her, to make her stay. She ran into the road when I tried to stop her." His tone cracked, voice shaking with something that might have been guilt or obsession. "After she died, I couldn't stand the silence. So I brought her back. Her voice still loved me." The generator lights dimmed, flickering. Overhead, the intercom hissed. Then Lena's voice flooded the station, sharp and clear. "Ryan, stop pretending. You killed me." Ryan froze, color draining from his face. No, that's not possible." Priya's voice came through Rowan's radio, frantic. "I didn't play that. The files live streaming from his system. It's autonomous." Lena's voice grew louder, echoing to the vents, repeating words Ryan once whispered in private recordings. You promised no one would get hurt." Ryan staggered backward, trembling. "It's not her. It's code. She's just data." He fumbled for the flash drive labeled hollow, clutching it like a talisman. "Without this, she's gone." Rowan stepped forward. "Put it down." Ryan's hand hovered over a power, conduit feeding into the computer hub. "You don't understand. She's alive in here." Lightning cracked outside. The emergency lights died completely. A second later, an electric snap. The flash drive shattered against the conduit, sparks flying. Ryan screamed as the current arced through the metal. When the lights blinked back, he was on the floor, pulse fading. Silence returned, thick, absolute. Maya knelt beside him, tears streaking down her face. On the monitor, one last audio waveform moved, faint and pulsing. Lena's voice whispered, "Thank you, Maya. Let me rest." The line went flat. 3 days later, Maya stood by the riverbank where the story began. The air smelled of rain and soil. Her sister's grave lay quiet. The phone that once rang sealed in evidence forever. Rowan joined her, hands in his coat pockets. The tech team traced the AI system. It was self-learning. It adapted Ryan's inputs, but after the crash, it started generating new phrases by itself. Maya looked at the water, its surface still as glass. So maybe part of her really was in there. Rowan hesitated. Or maybe it was guilt echoing through the machine. She nodded, almost smiling. Either way, she's quiet now. They turned to leave, but as Maya's phone vibrated in her pocket, She froze. Unknown number. One missed call. The voicemail autoplayed, static, then a soft voice. Maya. The message ended. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for what comes next. Hit subscribe before the next call comes from someone you lost.